and welcome to Petrol. So today I'm driving to Rolls Royce Motors in Bristol to buy my first Rolls Royce. To be precise, a Rolls Royce Ghost. So the other day I was thinking to myself, when I become rich and famous and I've got about 110 to 120,000 pounds to spend on a car to be chauffeured round in, what should I buy? Should I buy an S-Class? Should I buy, a kind of top-end BMW? Should I buy a Maserati? And then I thought to myself, hold on a minute, why don't I give my mate Bradley a ring, who works here at Rolls Royce Bristol, and see what he's got on the books? And he was like, actually mate, you need to come down because we've got that car just there. Now that is a Rolls Royce Ghost, a 2010 model. It's up for sale. I have the spec sheet just here, and I thought it'd be really interesting to have a look at the car and see just what you can get for your money when you buy used Rolls Royce. And then the really cool thing, even though it's pristinely clean, the carpets have even got stripes on them because of the way the guys valet the car. We're going to take it out on the road and take it for a test drive and probably get it quite muddy because it's chucking it down with rain outside. But I thought this might be quite interesting. So let's go and take a look, a bit more detail about the car behind me. So let's just talk a little bit about this car then. As I said, it's a 2010 Ghost. It has just a touch over 10,000 miles on the clock and the most beautiful spec. So there's a huge amount of chrome spec on this car. The wheels, the kick plates here, there's a load, beautiful interior. But it's the attention to detail of the previous owner that just fascinates me about this car. So little things like nobody has ever sat in the back seats. You can look at the leather, there's not a mark on them, there's no wear on them at all. The car was never driven in the wet. It was sawned over the winter, and then so the only person to ever clean the car was the owner, and it was washed with filtered rainwater. It's immaculate, this car. There's not a mark on it. So let's have a look at some of the specific features, because it's a pretty highly spec car as well. But it is just beautiful. You'd sit in this car and you'd never ever guess that this car was a 2010 car. Never. So one of the telltale signs for a well-spec'd Rolls Royce is this panel just here. And the good news is we've got lots and lots of buttons. So from left to right, we've basically got night vision, we've got a head-up display, we've got lane departure, and then finally active cruise control with some cruise control on the steering wheel as well. So really, really highly spec'd car. And if you just think about these options, a lot of these options, when this car was spec'd in 2010, they're pretty advanced options. You don't get many cars with those nowadays. let's just have a bit of a chat about the spec of this car and also its price. So I have the specification list in front of me. It includes equipment such as panoramic sunroof, adaptive cruise control, adaptive headlights, night vision, comfort entry system, universal garage door opener, rear view camera with top view, front massage seats, convenient door pocket lights, high beam assist, head-up display, lane departure warning, side view camera, voice control, Bluetooth, DAB radio, USB interface, and an extended Connect music player. So it's massively spec'd, and it's currently on the market for just over £112,000. As I said, it's a 2010 model. So you think, whoa, wow, buying a 2010 car, but because it's Provenance Pre-Owned Rolls Royce, so these cars go through an extensive check by Rolls Royce. It comes with a 2-year warranty and a 2-year included service plan. So you've got a huge amount of, if you like, peace of mind. So far, it's very, very impressive. And the condition of this particular car, so just across the way in the showroom is a brand new Ghost. And from a condition point of view, you'd hardly tell the difference. It's absolutely phenomenal. So it's getting to that time in the film where we need to get this car dirty and take it out on the road, just see what it's like to drive. Because although I opened this film by saying this is a great car to be driven around in, the really interesting thing about the guy who spec'd this car was he was a driver. He wanted to drive it, not be driven. So there's a lot of kind of the options he's gone for are all about being behind the driver's side of the car, on the steering, behind the steering wheel and driving. Oh, so what better way, guys, to start this review than being chauffeured by my man Bradley in the front. I say, Bradley, take us to lunch. So you've got to start the car review in the back here, and what's really, really cool about this car is it's been spec'd with from the driver's side you can actually move the passenger side seat up and down, and it's been put as far forward as possible, so I have huge amounts of leg room. But it's so beautiful in here. I'm probably the first person to have ever sat in these seats. You've got Isofix, if you ever wanted to put a baby in the back of a Ghost, you could. And just all very lovely things. Yeah. I wouldn't actually spend very long in the back of one of these because I just want to be driving it. So I think that is where we head next, to the driver's side, to find out. Now, I haven't driven a Ghost, I have driven a Wraith, but I'm very much looking forward to kind of getting behind the wheel of this thing and seeing just how good a driver's car it is. Well, here we are, guys, out driving this absolutely amazing Rolls Royce Ghost. Now, you may well have seen I have been lucky enough to drive a Rolls Royce Wraith in the past, and as soon as I get behind the steering wheel of this car, I remember just how special they are to drive. You look down the big long sweeping bonnet and you've got the Spirit of Ecstasy leading the way, and it's a really very special view. Certainly a view you're not going to get in other premium cars. You've got this kind of history and heritage, and very, very special. The other thing that strikes you about this car instantly is it feels so tight and so new, it's unbelievable. You would never ever, if you were did like a blindfold test, not that you could do a blindfold test while driving, but just in terms of the feel and the look and the touch of all the internals, there's not a mark on the inside of this car, but to drive, it's just so tight and so new feeling. It's unbelievable. It feels like it's only just been run in, even though it's a 7-year-old car. Quite amazing. So we've got a little controller here on the stick, which kind of puts it into, it's a bit vulgar to call it a sport mode, but gives you that. So the thing you would not probably instantly tie up with Rolls Royces, because they just look so smooth and effortless and elegant, is you got to remind yourself they're a really quick car. This has got a huge amount of power under the bonnet, big, beautiful, smooth V12. It's a very, very speedy car. It's a kind of, 5 second to 60 car, but the size and elegance and so on is very misleading. The other thing, and I mentioned this in my Wraith video, what I love about Rolls Royces is they don't have a rev counter. They have a power reserve meter, and I just think that's just so lovely. I'm idling along here on the motorway, and I have 98% of my power still left in reserve, which I think is fantastic. I mentioned about this car feeling tight and new, but I just think that's testament to the standards and build quality of Rolls-Royce. You know, the standard of build and materials in here is just superb, but I'm lucky enough, I literally live 3 miles away from the Rolls-Royce factory, and I see cars out on their final test runs almost on a daily basis. And every time you look at one and you just see this kind of, this stunning piece of engineering. And I'm now sat in that stunning piece of engineering driving one, and it's a very, very special feeling, this. And yes, I know I started the video in the back being driven, and I'm sure many Rolls-Royce owners that's where they'll be, but you must never forget that Rolls-Royces are as much about driving the car as they are about being sat in the back and being chauffeured along. And when you get behind the wheel and drive one of these things, they're just fantastic. They're great fun as well. They're really, really kind of, you don't accelerate, you waft along. It's effortless grace, this car. Absolutely effortless grace. So I am kind of sitting here having this beautiful kind of Rolls-Royce moment, spirit of ecstasy on the end of the bonnet. I've got a head-up display, I've got all the tech I could possibly want, and I am thinking to myself, hold on a minute, this car I'm driving is the same money as a brand new S-Class. And the really interesting thing about this car, which makes it potentially more attractive, is this car's already seen the bulk of its depreciation. It's already, you know, it's a 7-year-old car, but it doesn't feel like that. In terms of the sort of wear inside, there's very little wear. And if you think you went and bought a brand new S-Class, the depreciation you'd see in, I don't know, the first 2 years compared with this car, which has already seen that depreciation, makes this a really attractive proposition. And if you think about the sort of finance you could get with the residual value you're likely to get on this vehicle, that makes it a really interesting proposition. Don't forget, 2 years servicing, 2 years warranty. Yeah, it's certainly thought-provoking, that's for sure. And if you want a smooth driving experience, if you want a car that's just completely effortless, I think Rolls-Royce used the term, it's just like sitting on a sort of carpet ride of luxury and elegance and waftability. Yeah, that's this car through and through. It is worth stating, I know in this particular video we're talking about this specific car, but don't forget that the ethos around used Rolls-Royces runs across all Rolls-Royce dealers, and there are other used vehicles in Rolls-Royce Bristol, but also the 2-year warranty, 2-year servicing thing, you're only going to find that at an approved Rolls-Royce dealer. So, you know, it's like most of these things, if you are looking at used vehicles, there's a huge benefit of going to the actual dealer and dealing directly with them. But yeah, really, really interesting. I know when we first talked about the concept of this video, I thought, oh, that'd be great because I get to drive a Rolls Royce again. But I have to say, I never realised that I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still a huge amount of money, and many people won't be able to afford that. But if you are in that marketplace for the sort of £100,000 to £120,000 executive saloon, which, let's face it, lots of people are, if you actually looked at the finance and you looked at the kind of monthly payments that you would be paying with a reasonable deposit and a reasonable residual value at the end, you probably find that the monthly cost of owning a car like this isn't that different to, you know, a kind of Uber saloon from one of the German stables. So, you know, that's why I find this really, really interesting. Now, some of you may never be lucky enough to even be a passenger in a Rolls Royce, and I am. I've been in Phantoms and Ghosts and Wraiths and Dawns. I'm really, really lucky. And you go in as a passenger. I remember my first time sat in the back of a Phantom, I was kind of aghast. It was just such an amazing experience. And then you actually get to drive one, and they are such a surprising car to drive because they drive so well. They are really, really powerful and smooth and elegant, but they're far, far more engaging and a quicker car to drive than you would imagine. And because of that, you know, that's why I would definitely, if I had the kind of money to be spending on this kind of sort of executive saloon, that's why I would certainly sort of consider this as a car, because it ticks so many boxes in terms of quality, luxury, feel. I mean, it certainly makes you feel special when you're driving it. So yeah, really, really interesting car. I actually don't really want to stop driving it, to be honest, but I know I will have to eventually. Much as I am loving this car, the time is rapidly approaching for lunch. So actually, because we're going to a very nice kind of country house hotel for lunch, the only way to arrive is going to be arriving in style, sat in the back seat. So I'm going to actually jump in the back seat, and I'm going to swap over and let my driver take me to lunch. Well, here we are, guys, at our lunchtime stop, Berwick Lodge. I couldn't help but jump back in the back of this car and be chauffeured to lunch. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that. I mean, a huge thanks to Rolls Royce Bristol for giving me access to this car, and kind of been a really interesting look at just what you can get in terms of a used Rolls Royce. And I think certainly this particular example is just phenomenal. It's absolutely beautiful. But I hope you've enjoyed that video. It's something a little bit different. If you have done so, give me a thumbs up. Comments below are always welcome, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Petrol for plenty more content to come. And you never know, some of that might be Rolls Royce oriented. Anyway, I'll see you on the next film, guys. You take care. Drive safe.